So the Clippers, oh my gosh, I have to say, I did not see this absolute collapse coming, but as of late, they have fallen apart. Injuries are decimating them in some ways, as has been the truth for a long time with the Clippers, and things are just going really, really bad. They blow a 23-point lead tonight after really dominating for 2.5 quarters. Fourth quarter, they get up 43 points to the Suns. Colin Gillespie destroys them. Kevin Durant gets cooking in the fourth quarter, had like 19. I don't know, man. It's over for the Clippers. It's kind of what it looks like for this season. The honest truth is this is a roster that is too old and just not quite deep enough or good enough to compete at the highest level is really what it looks like. Despite Kawhi Leonard coming back healthy recently, they just don't have it. And it's the honest truth. They've had a much more impressive season than I expected them to have, and I will give them credit for that. Going into this year, I thought they were going to be about a 34-win team. They're at 32 right now. Problem is they were at 31 going into the All-Star break. They were 31-23. They are now 32-29, 1-6 since the All-Star break. Norm Powell has played a total of 9 minutes since the All-Star break, which was, I believe, Sunday against the Lakers. He re-injured himself. His hamstring got re-injured, and he is now out for at least 10 days to be reevaluated then, so he's probably out for at least a couple weeks. Despite Zubac having 35 tonight, plus 22, Kawhi really did not do anything down the stretch of this game. Harden with another inefficient 5 of 14, 2 of 9 from 3. Only reason he has 21 points is because of free throws, although he did have 15 assists. As a whole, they only shoot 26.7% from 3 as a team, which is a real concern, especially with no Norm Powell. And unfortunately, they just collapse. It really kind of an embarrassing total collapse by this team, who basically lets Colin Gillespie and KD walk them down in the fourth quarter and put on this huge comeback. I mean, they were down. They got outscored by 21 points in the fourth quarter, y'all. They were up by 19 going into the fourth. This is the type of loss that is a season crusher in a lot of ways, especially with the run that they've been on recently. 6 of their last 7 are losses, the only win coming against a pretty incompetent Chicago team. The game against Los Angeles on Sunday, they desperately wanted to win. Kawhi played 40 minutes. They gave it everything they had, and they weren't good enough. Tonight against Phoenix, similar story in a lot of ways down the stretch. Kawhi plays another 37 minutes. Keep in mind, Kawhi had not played 40 or more minutes since November of 2023, a year and a half ago. And in back-to-back games, he plays 37 and 40, and they lose both games. Just not sustainable. And the crazy thing about it is they have the 6th hardest remaining schedule in the entire league for the rest of the year. Look, I get all the teams above them except for Milwaukee or they have the 7th hardest. I'm sorry. All the teams above them except for Milwaukee are Western Conference teams, but Phoenix is also bad. Sacramento, I don't know. Portland, they're not really in the race for anything. Denver's good, and the Lakers are clearly also very good. And so the Clippers, I think, are in a really rough spot here with a tough schedule, playing really bad basketball without their really, for this season, their most consistent and best player in Norm Powell. He has been the guy on the offensive end of the court for most of the year. He's now not going to win Most Improved, which is a shame for him because he's not going to play enough games. The minimum games requirement strikes again. And the Clippers are now the 9 seed in the West, really only benefited by how bad the Suns are overall, despite their fourth quarter tonight, and by the fact that the Mavs season is entirely over with Kyrie now having torn his ACL, which again, soul crushing. Just everything that's happened in Dallas is the worst thing in basketball. But as a whole, their only saving grace at this point is that the West looks like it's only about 7 teams. The Suns they're not a threat, really. The Mavs are clearly not a threat. The Kings are inconsistent. I don't know if I trust them. And as a whole, you're looking at a Western Conference that's kind of wide open for that 8 seed at this point. That's the one benefit that the Clippers do have. They're only half a game back of the Kings for that 8 seed. If they could get that 8 seed and have 2 chances instead of 1 to lose and still have an opportunity to get in the playoffs, I mean, having to win 2 in a row from the 9 seed, both games, or 1 game at home, but then 1 game on the road is going to be tough. Whereas if you're the 8 seed, at least you get 2 opportunities to win a game. So look, they could still make the playoffs, absolutely, but their season is clearly falling apart. It's extremely obvious. When you look at the numbers up until the All-Star break through February 13th, they were 31-23, second best defensive rating in basketball behind only OKC. Really, really high level team. And on the offensive end, look, they weren't special. They were 19th in offensive rating at a 111.5, but they could sustain that because of the elite defense, which gave them a top 9 point differential in all of basketball and a very, very good team. to this point in the year. Like, they were playing great basketball since the All-Star break. No Norm Powell pretty much, and it has totally imploded. The ninth worst defensive rating in basketball at a 117.2, and even worse, the eighth worst defensive rate or offensive rating too at a 109.9, which means they've been really bad on both ends of the court as of late, which gives them the seventh worst net rating in basketball in that stretch. And really every other team around them except for the Knicks is kind of a trash team, a tanking team, a falling apart team. And then you have the Clippers. Like, just really, really bad. This is the type of game tonight that you absolutely, no excuses, have to win against a reeling Phoenix team that is absolutely falling apart in their own way. And instead, you totally fail to do that. And the biggest issue is this roster is not getting any younger. Their best players are James Harden, Norm Powell, Kawhi Leonard. James Harden, 35 years old, clearly has regressed. Kawhi Leonard, 33 years old, significant injury concerns, only played in 20 games after tonight this season. Norm Powell, now injured as well, having the best season of his career, but it's not enough. And honestly, the crazy thing about Norm Powell is he's really just having a great season as a scorer. His assist turnover ratio isn't good. He's not really a playmaker. He's just an absolute scorer. And while Harden's done some really good things, 34% from three, less than that, just doesn't cut it on a night-to-night basis. Kawhi Leonard's having a solidly efficient season, still averaging 18 a game, but he's not the player he once was. And he doesn't have the availability that you would hope from a player, which isn't a surprise at this point. They're not extremely deep. They have some good players, no doubt, guys like Derrick Jones. And I mean, Zubac has had an awesome year, averaging 15 and 12 and a half, super solid efficiency at 62%. But at the end of the day, this is a team with several real injuries at this point that are handicapping their depth. They're just not particularly good. I mean, they trade Kevin Porter Jr. for Marjon Beauchamp just to waive him. Didn't get anything out of that. Not that KPJ was great for them either, but they're not deep. They're not good. They're not super competitive, and they don't have that young star type guy that you look at as a piece you can kind of build around towards the future. The honest truth is their salary situation's kind of rough. I mean, James Harden has a player option for next year that I would assume he'll pick up because he's not getting that type of money on the open market at this point in his career. Kawhi Leonard, they're under contract for 2 more years at $50 million a year, which is extremely concerning for a guy who can't stay healthy and isn't the player that he once was, although he can still be a contributor. And like, look, these other contracts aren't completely handicapping. Zubac contract, I think, is a pretty good deal. The Derrick Jones Jr. deal, pretty good deal. Chris Dunn's been one of the best guard defenders in all of basketball this year. Another guy who's pretty good deal. Like, overall, there are some positives here, but there are a lot of negatives as well. And overall, it's just a roster that doesn't have a ton of high-end talent and doesn't have a big path to getting it either. You look at you look at the draft picks that they have these next few years. They have basically a 2025 pick that is going to get pick swapped to a worse pick. They're going to wind up with OKC's pick probably. They don't have their 26 first at all. They have their 27 first, but again, it's going to get pick swapped. Their 28 first, they do not have. Their 29 first, again, is going to get pick swapped with Philly if they want to. And then they have their own 2030 and 2031 first, but they're missing a couple of first round picks. They're missing pick swaps on their other 3 next picks. Like, they're looking at a lot of late first round pick or non first round pick seasons over the next 5 years. So this is a roster that doesn't have a lot of young talent, doesn't seem good enough to truly compete at a high level in the Western Conference, and doesn't have the assets to build towards the future. As much as this season has been a surprise to me up until the All-Star break, things are going the way that I kind of thought they would at this point for the Clippers, which is a shame because they have one of the best arenas in basketball, one of the best owners in basketball. But in all honesty, the Paul George trade has backfired hugely. Kawhi Leonard never quite was what he wanted him to be with the Clippers because of health. The James Harden trade was a bad idea, and they're just not particularly good overall. It looks like it's over in LA. That's the honest truth, at least for the Clippers. So I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.